I don't want to kind of like restate your whole piece there, but I just want to add something. Like, so it's so obviously like, to me. I mean, like, to me, I would take Fernando Mendoza ahead of a lot of those receivers like Tate, Tyson, Lemon. But I think those guys, Mendoza and Love, are kind of the top five unquestioned. And then, like, in my opinion, I was looking at Casey and Price. Casey Concepcion was probably my pick at six, but I think Casey and Price kind of make like a mini-ish tier. And then, like, if you're high on Sadiq or Stowers or one of those guys, maybe that's what we're looking at. But once you get to the back half of the first round, I mean, like you were talking about, like, I don't see a lot of guys past that. Like, you got the draft capital floor plays of the really early first round pick, or the really early second round pick in Boston, and the early draft capital of Cooper. So, like, those two guys, I don't mind taking them in the back half of the first round. But for me, like, past those guys, and then Ty Simpson, I would also throw up there as like a super flex, like dart throw. I mean, there's probably, you know, 10 or 15 names. I mean, Antonio Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, like, none of those guys stick out ahead of anybody else, but like, you can state your case on pretty much any of those guys past the top 10 or 11. So me being able to move some of those picks was kind of weird. And I mean, you've been seeing that too. I think it just comes down to Ricky Fever at the end of the day, which we thought people would maybe not get as enthused this year. But as it turns out, I mean, when you're on the clock, sometimes people might overpay a little bit, So
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When kind of briefly speaking on some of the trades, like I saw Brees Hall go for a 27 second, a very late 26 second, and like the 112.
whoa,
And like I understand that in a vacuum, hey, a first and two second round picks for Brees Hall, like that's like a fair trade, arguably. I mean that you might even consider it a win.
yeah,
Um, but like it's these specific picks in this specific draft that like shocked me. And the thing is, it doesn't matter ultimately to a degree if the draft is or isn't any worse than any other draft. If the perceived value, if people don't know enough about it or just have a different opinion, then you can still sell those picks. I'm not gonna lie, I'm shocked at the value that some of these later picks with guys in either bad situations or just low capital, non highly touted players, the value that people are getting for those picks, it's crazy.
yeah, yeah, man. I mean, like, I guess, like, my take is this: I totally agree with that 100%, and I feel like the entire second round is like almost a flat tier. Like, I mean, like, I was just saying some names like Antonio Williams, Jeremy Bernard. I feel like I'm higher on those guys, but I don't think they're necessarily better than I mean, the Penn State running backs, or like, just like, insert your favorite player. Like, you could get Chris Brazzell pushed all the way up to pick 15 and 20. Chris Bell. I mean, like, once you get past like the Omar Coopers and the Denzel Boston too, I'm not even feeling like too strongly about. But like, once you get past those guys and the two tight ends, Stores and Sadiq, there's a huge chasm to where, like, you can just plant your flag. And I think you were saying this maybe last time, like, we went live, or when we were trying to go live, but like, it's straight flag plant season from pick 12 on, and it's like,
Yes.
some of it is going to look like a crazy reach, but that's where you can do it in an advantageous manner. And if someone loves those players, dangle that pick in front of them and get something that's more valuable. So it's like super interesting. But on the contrary, I think the picks later towards the 2-3 turn, and even like a little bit later, there might be some guys there still, because it's such a flat tier that, like, at the end of that tier, like, there's going to be some names. Like, I'm not like dying for a Bryce Lance or a Ted Hurst, but like, those guys are going to get pushed way down to past pick 30. And I mean, I think they have some skills. So I don't know. It's kind of like like two sides of the coin, where like the top half of the second is super weak to me, but then the back half towards like going towards the third, there's some names that I don't think would be there in some years.
Yeah, as far as I said this in the wide receiver rankings video that I just made,
Yeah.
and then I released it on YouTube, released on Patreon yesterday, is that after the late first and after the kind of Denzel Boston, if he happens to be your last wide receiver among those high second round and late first round guys that we expected at least to go that high, that it's the Wild West. I really don't have an argument if you have one guy or another over. Usually I would have a very strong opinion And somebody that I was really high on, Chris Brazel, like I'm going to be getting him practically for free in a
Yeah.
lot of my drafts because like he just didn't get the draft capital I'd hoped for. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the 201 and the 312 are relatively similar in value, and I don't really. I would if I could. I'm just. It's almost one of these things where it's like I'm not even interested in trading back to get more shots because I'm not. I'm not sure that getting multiple shots of these guys that are further down the line is worth having to drop some of the bottom guys on my own roster this season.
No,
Strangely enough.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's what it comes down to is like when you're making a draft pick, there's going to be these quote unquote roster cloggers that you need to, take care of, and it doesn't become you're trading for the pick. It becomes you're trading for the pick plus the player that you're subtracting, and it's like at a certain point, like those guys are meaningful. Like they have like some value. And yeah, it sounds crazy when like pick like 13, like 201 and all the way down to the 3-4 turn is similar, but that's kind of like what I was getting at too. Like and like when it comes down to like Nick Singleton or Keyshawn Allen, I love both those guys to varying degrees. I mean, I'm not a huge fan, but they went to decent like landing spots, and like I can kind of like talk myself into these guys. But at the end of the day, we're looking at the draft capital for these running backs, and the hit rates are absolutely abysmal. Like for a fourth round, a fifth round running back in a real life draft, in the NFL draft, like those guys barely ever hit. And those are the types of players that we're looking at with these second round picks is like less than 10% chance hits. Like it is so slim margins where like moving back and moving back and moving back, like there's gonna be some names, but like there's just not a lot of conviction where like if you're gonna have to drop, I mean like I don't want to just say like random guys, but like a Michael Mayer has like some value. Like is it really um that imperative of you to get a fourth round pick in this year and drop Michael Mayer who you've been stashing? Or like I mean like Mayer's just a backup titan, but like there's guys that are, quote unquote like roster cloggers that are more valuable than a fourth round pick this year. Cause like once you get down past the Hurst and the Lance, it's like I mean it's just nothing, man. And like in a world where Dejuan Stribling got all this draft capital and like Chris Bell fell like all the way down to Miami, like there just wasn't the landing spots that we wanted to like have these picks retain value. Like if Chris Bell went the same pick of Stribling to the Niners, he'd have a ton of hype. I mean, like it's just a lot of things that didn't like really work out. And so yeah, like here we are where pick 15 and 25 are pretty much the same thing. It's just the flavor of who you want. And yeah, it becomes really complicated near the fourth round there where like, are these guys even better than the end of my bench? It's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, that is an issue. I will say that what's up, everybody in chat? By the way, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Um, yeah. So this is the kind of draft where I would be willing to quote throw away some of my second round picks to move up to get somebody that I'm more confident that can produce right now,
Hmm.
because outside of Jeremiah Love, Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, um, Mendoza doesn't really fit in the category of win now, but
Yeah.
he could at any point. But Makai Lemon, I think will. I think Jadarian Price will. After you get there with Casey Concepcion, Sadiq Simpson, some of those guys, I just don't really see the win now production with some of them. Um, it's more of like a believe in the talent and a long term thing. I think the floor and the ceiling is greatly reduced because of the offensive situations. And if I could just trade one of these second round picks where I'm getting a fourth round running back that's in a cloggish situation,
Oh.
or a third round wide receiver, like third round wide receiver hit rates are abysmal, abysmal. So if I could just be trading up in this draft, if I don't have any picks, I obviously sold all of mine well in advance. I've known for 2 years that this class was probably not going to be very good.
Hmm.
Although I didn't know the landing spots would be this bad, to be fair. If you could sell, if you have all your picks and you have seconds and you can move those up to get players that you think are going to get you more win out production, those players for Dynasty at least are going to raise more in perceived value in the community. And you might be able to sell high on some of these guys, like you were able to for a Mike Buka mid
Hmm.
season, for instance. Um, Whereas with some of these other guys, I think if you're looking to contend and you have one of these late firsts, I would be looking to trade them directly for vets that can probably produce right now.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of where when I mean, like we can do like a natural segue here. Obviously, I get robbed out of the 105. That's not for here nor there, but the 106, I'm looking at Rashi Rice. I ended up taking Rashi Rice over the likes of Casey Concepcion and Jadarian Price. It's interesting that you mentioned Jadarian Price there because that's a really hard I guess like dynasty question for me to answer because I feel confident in Price for this year. I feel confident in his projection and scoring points this year. I just don't know if I have a lot of faith in him long term. I mean, it's possible that Sharps gets out the way and he's just kind of the guy there, but I think there's more question marks long term about Price than Concepcion. Whereas Concepcion, I'm kind of talking myself into maybe he can get immediate production. Like maybe he's the next Zay Flowers for Todd Munkin, but it's like that's more of a projection in the near term versus Price being more 2-3 years down the line, and there's more question marks. Where I think Casey at that point will have his role like solidified. But I mean, if that's is the mid first questions, like we are in big trouble because like usually 106, 107, 108 even we got guys that are going to give you points now and later, and you're picking between now and later. It's like come on, bro, it's ridiculous. So yeah,
I've never seen a class. I mean, I've been playing Dynasty since 2020, and I've been playing fantasy football since I was like 7. So obviously,
yeah,
I've been playing fantasy football for a long time. I've never seen anything like this. I thought it was going to be bad. I didn't think it was going to be this bad, though. I mean, as much as I like, Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson for the future, man, if you were looking for a win now quarterback out of this, I've never seen a draft even in the Kenny Pickett year.
yeah,
At least you got the hey, he's going to produce immediately for your team. Whereas it's just so brutal. The Jets and Browns decided to, and the Eagles, to be fair, kind of decided to, between the three of them, take the entire end of the first round. But man, like I said, if you can trade up into some of these draft slots with some of your seconds and thirds, or preferably, in my opinion, if you can get 27 picks, everyone always says the next year is going to be better, but I really think this next season is going to be so much better than this year. I
yeah.
think I think the 112 will be a more talented player than the 103 or 102 this year,
Oh
personally.
boy, yeah. Um, this is just kind of I guess like individual player takes, but if you are looking for reasons that I guess buy into this class, we have a couple weird names. I already mentioned Desjuan Stribling going to San Francisco. What do you think about Kalen Black going there with? It seems like every single year the Niners overdraft the next Christian McCaffrey backup. But do you have any read on the situation, and do you have any faith that he can eventually get some starts there or get any work, or is this just another bench piece?
So McCaffrey, after this last season, now has an exactly 50% chance over the past whatever amount of years of either winning you a championship or making sure it's really hard for you to make the playoffs. Um, he's going to be 30 really here soon. He's 29 right now. I would if I was a betting man, I would not bet on a fully healthy season. But the thing is, I think it's anyone's guess as to who the running back is going to be after that. Now Shanahan typically doesn't employ um, a real committee, even when McCaffrey goes down. If you remember back when Isaac Garendo took over,
Yep.
he got a vast majority of the snaps. Then we had Jordan Mason, who got the vast majority of the snaps. So it is going to be one of those running backs. But it's anyone's guess as to whether it'll be Black, whether it might be Jordan James, um, maybe even Grendo. It'll be one of them, and if you can get one of them for really cheap and just have a lottery ticket, there is a lot of upside in this offense. So that's something I would potentially, I think, is a smart thing you're saying that I would choose to invest in if I could do it relatively cheaply.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because you're hoping not to break the bank with a guy like Black, but when you go back to these like old San Fran picks, I mean, I believe Elijah Mitchell was a sixth round pick, but he had a pretty good profile coming out. Isaac Arendo, obviously, he was like,
Speed,
yeah,
size adjusted speed.
yeah, like he was like this year's Mike Washington. So I mean, I,
Yeah.
I'm I kind of fall in love with those bets there. So like, they're not the highest percent bets, but like they're certainly top percentile outcome bets. But yeah, I mean that being said, really hard to say with any certainty who's it going to be. But there's a lot of upside with the Niners there. So I mean, Black is at least a guy to keep tabs on, but they really reach on him. They really reach on Stribling, and it's like um I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see because like you could tell yourself the story and like pick those guys up near the top of the second. That's not gonna be me, but like there's people that have definitely done that, like 202, 203, you know, Stribling, Black, but I don't know. I think my flavor, I mentioned him like a couple times. I think the number one guy in the whole second round that I feel like comfortable with is Antonio Williams. Because I think with the early career production at Clemson, never really ascended how I wanted to see, but there's some excuses for like injuries and whatnot. So he's been moderately productive, great pedigree coming out. But for me, it's the landing spot. It's kind of Terry McLaurin and me and you out there catching passes. So it's like if Antonio Williams can get some sort of role, we know that Jaden Daniels has all kinds of upside. When I mean this offense could be super high scoring, and I mean there's just not a lot of weapons to go around. They did get Chikakonkwu, so like maybe he's the second pass catcher, but Antonio Williams has a chance to be a top 2 or 3 pass catcher on this team, and I think the team's gonna be pretty good. When it comes to like Jeremy Bernard, he gets more draft capital, but with Michael Pittman coming in, I think Metcalf and Pittman are gonna kind of get a lot of those targets. Plus, I mean, we're looking at Will Howard and Drew Aller, so yeah, I think I'm taking Antonio Williams over Bernard, and I'm going to see the draft capital there and just hope that that he can see the field more early and often. And yeah, I like him in that range.
Yeah, so with Antonio Williams, I think he has a really good chance of being their day one slot. He's more of a slot. I don't know that he has the he could arguably be their best bet to be a Z potentially, but I think from day one he's going to be their slot. They have David Blow there now as their quarterback, but Blah, whatever you say his name.
Yeah,
Um, I believe he's a Detroit lineage, so not sure. I don't remember their rate of 11 personnel this past season, but I do think he's a day one slot there. I think the upside is potentially limited, but the floor is probably there. Like you said, really good situation as far as the quarterback play with Jaden Daniels. He delivers the runner's balls. So he's going to help maximize his yak ability. And like you said, they really just don't have too much outside of Terry McLaurin. And that's if McLaurin manages to stay healthy again. He's
Mm.
over 30 now. He's 30 and a half. Um,
Oh boy.
yeah. But the defense is likely to be pretty mediocre at best for Washington again. I know they got Styles, which is good for them. I like the pick in
Mhm.
real life, but yeah, somebody that I am actually really if I believe I have maybe like 2 second round picks in the 15 leagues I'm in. I've sold all of my picks well in advance because I figured this type of like this was what was going to
Yeah.
happen as far as the talent. But Emmett Johnson going to Kansas City
Ooh.
with Kenneth Walker there. Kenneth Walker's super talented when healthy, but he has dealt with so many injuries. I really would not be shocked if Emmett Johnson does see the field, and then with an injury, and even maybe sparingly with Walker healthy. But when you look at who else is there, they have Amari DiMarcado, they have Brashard Smith. None of those guys inspire confidence, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of being able to handle a large volume of work on the ground and be efficient. So I think there's a real chance for Emmett Johnson with one Kenneth Walker injury. And if there was a pool of running backs I was willing to bet on potentially dealing with injuries, Kenneth Walker lives on the injury report. And while he hasn't missed an absurd amount of games necessarily in any individual season lately, I do think there's a decent chance.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good shout out there. Kenneth Walker kind of has glass bones and paper skin, unfortunately, for as talented as he is. But yeah, great. I guess like handcuff play there. Here's another one, and I have a couple of points to make here. So obviously, you don't want to go invest in a running back with fifth, sixth round draft capital, ideally. But Damon Claiborne, I can't help but look at the situation in Minnesota, and it's a pretty vacant running back room. I mean, Claiborne a little lighter than you'd want, but he's kind of short, so the BMI isn't awful. It's going to be hard for the linebackers to keep up with him in space. I mean, he's like really shifty. I feel like he could catch some passes. Yeah, like Claiborne's a guy that I have some intrigue in, but I wanted to go back because I was talking about Antonio Williams, and you obviously want your receivers to get first round draft capital, top 50 draft capital, because like once you get to the third and fourth round, it is pretty much cooked. I mean, one of the only success stories in recent history, I believe, is Terry McLaurin, who is on the same team as Antonio Williams. But when it comes to the fourth round, we got Skylar Bell as the one guy that's kind of like sticking out to me. Skylar Bell going to one of the most advantageous situations. We got old man DJ Moore, Keon Coleman always in the doghouse. Dalton Kincaid hasn't been what he's been built up to be. Skylar Moore coming off a 100 catch season plus almost 1,300 yards. I think there's a chance that he can. Oh, what? No way. So okay, Khalil Shakir was a third or fourth round pick. Maybe Skylar Bell can have an outcome like that in the same offense. Granted, between Shakir, Moore, Kincaid, and Coleman, there's a lot of bodies to pass. But I mean, Bell certainly has some skills. He's pretty athletic. That's that's another guy that I'm not dying to buy because just the hit rates on guys that go in the third and fourth round at receiver are crazy. But if it's going to be anybody, I think in the fourth round it's going to be Skylar Bell there. So I have him a little bit higher than some guys taken ahead of him just because of the situation there and being with Josh Allen is pretty great. So
Yeah, I think there's a chance that they'll have Keon Coleman is a sacrificial X still.
yeah,
And he doesn't have he wouldn't. Long story short, he should have been a big slot, but
yep.
they needed an X, and they said, "Well, he's 6'3", 212 pounds. That means he can play X." Contrary to
Oh
popular
god,
belief, that was a bad take by the Bills. So I think that they presumably have him as a sacrificial X. I think they'll have more at Z and two wide receiver sets, but I think Skylar Bell. Well, it's tough to say because Moore can play X, but he's not. He's better maximized when he doesn't have to face press man coverage. So I think that it could be a little bit rough for Bell. It might not be. It's really tough because it really depends on how much Keon Coleman we're going to see, and because if they do decide to put more at X, I could really see Bell thriving in three wide receiver sets. It's it's tough because there isn't a certain take on this because it's just up to what the even though the OC got promoted, so it's not as though it's an entirely new coaching staff. But I definitely see the upside, and he really, to be fair, he couldn't ask to be paired with a better quarterback.
yeah, and I mean that's sort of the whole gist of the like Bell case is you have the one of the best quarterbacks that's going to be like throwing the ball, and there's not a true stud in the way. So like if we see a lot of Keon Coleman, it's probably unlikely that like Bell's going to get big numbers. But if he can minimize somebody's snaps or someone's target share, like there's just a rare upside with him that doesn't exist. And I mean, you know, I mean, I hate to say like the Jets offense, but like an offense that isn't gonna have either a good quarterback or a high pass rate or whatever. So it's like um while being while having, a lot of bodies and James Cook there, I still think there's a chance you know, in year one and like hopefully like long term. And so I don't know. If you're trying to like talk yourself like into players, there's a story there with Bell to kind of persuade you. So
Yeah, there's a case, and that's the thing. And if you're watching this right now, just remember, obviously you can do anything you want in any draft, but in this draft, as far as what I'm pretty sure, besides even our own opinion, is what I would say consensus would say.
mhm.
I don't really pay attention to too many other content creators, in the sense of there's a couple really smart people, in my opinion, in my subjective opinion, they're smart, that I do pay attention to, and they do happen to agree that it's kind of the Wild West and pick your poison because there's just not a lot in the second round of path to relevancy. And
Yeah,
so, even if I disagree with you on a take or you disagree with me on a take, everybody should understand that this is like the most uncertain anyone could really be.
yeah.
Like, you know,
Totally, yeah. I mean, it's totally unserious because like I'm looking at Skylar Bell as like a name I'm shouting out in maybe the second round, and I'm talking about these Penn State running backs back to back, like because those guys have a decent pathway to relevance, but like a fourth round receiver and a fifth round running back, like those should not be in the conversation of a second round rookie pick. Like that's just
no.
where we're at. So I mean,
Yep.
you've got to deal with what you got. And I mean, like, here we are. So at the end of the day, trading these picks for point producing vets is the best thing that you can do, or taking a couple of them to move up to a guy that you're like certain with. But yeah, I mean, past 11 or 12, it is the Wild West, and I mean, you could have someone pick 30 or someone pick 15, and I mean, there's probably a good argument for them at each spot. So
One other guy I think is an interesting player. Not that I was particularly high on him pre-draft necessarily, but I think that somebody that has a very easy path to relevance is Caleb Douglas, who went to Miami
ooh,
and the third round, 75th overall. Once again, as I mentioned earlier, third round hit rates are really, really bad. Um, Now, with Chris Bell, he was a third round pick, but we all know it's just because of the ACL tear. He would have been significantly higher if that wasn't the case. But
absolute beast.
with Bell potentially missing the beginning of the season, we don't know yet. There's been reports, I believe, that he might be okay before then, but we don't know yet.
Yeah.
I think that given that Washington is arguably their best receiver besides rookies in that room, I think if any one of these guys, Bell or Douglas, is legitimately talented at all by NFL standards, there is no reason that they shouldn't have a pathway to relevancy here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this it's just such a crazy intersection in Miami of like lack of target competition and lack of I guess like passing competency cuz like I feel like I'm a pretty big Malik Willis supporter. I mean, going back to Liberty, I like his
He's
tape a little
solid,
bit.
dude.
Yeah,
He
but
has a
it's
good
like
deep ball, really
it's
good deep ball.
it's just like man, I'm not expecting a lot because there's not a lot in that room, and I mean, I love, I love Malik Willis, but as strictly a passer, he's not top half in the league. So it's like I don't know, man. I mean, I guess that part's debatable because we haven't seen him as a full time starter, but I'm not projecting a lot. But I say all this to say, yeah, someone is going to need to rise. And I have a lot of Malik Washington. I left him coming out. So like I kind of hope it's him, but like if one of those guys, and I mean Douglas is probably going to get the first crack. Like if one of those guys is remotely talented, value spike instantly there. So like there's far worse bets to make than a guy like that can see his value go up that quickly. So
Yeah. Somebody else that I think has a reasonable path to relevancy is Zachariah Branch, somebody that I wasn't necessarily the highest on
me
as a
too.
prospect. I think size is an issue for him, but I think there's a direct path for him to be the new Darnell Mooney in this offense. Um, I understand it's not going to be necessarily the exact same offense, but there's a path for him to potentially be right behind Drake London, at least as far as the receiver room is concerned, in my opinion. Um, Obviously, there's still Pitts there. There's still Bijan, so and Brian Robinson. So I think we're going to get a healthy dose of the run game, um, and a little bit less overall passing volume. But I do think there's a path for him to at least separate him among some of these other guys in the second round that potentially could have an even more difficult pathway to getting relevance here.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly feel like Zachariah Branch brings a different skill set than what the offense has. I mean, there's a lot of hey, my dog's fucking around, sorry. But there's a lot of size there. I mean, Pitts is gonna go up and get it. Huge athlete there. London, big possession guy. But I mean, like those guys are like 6'4", 6'5". Branch is more twitchy and bring some yak. Solid route running there too. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Branch, but I can certainly talk myself into that spot there where like I mean, if you like him, take him. There's certainly a case there.
Going to we talked about some of the receivers, some of the running backs. I think somebody that I'm potentially interested in long term at tight end, and understand that this is like a potential interest, and this is relative to who you can get in the second rounds, and even more so relative among who you can get in the second round at the tight end position.
Hmm.
I think Oscar Delp to New Orleans is somewhat interesting. I think that Kellen
Yes.
Moore is a really good coordinator, and I think that he, much like some of what I think the Jags are going to do, because they drafted a second round blocking tight end. Now Delp was third round, 73rd overall with draft capital with tight ends. We've seen McBride go in the second round. We've seen Kittle go
Yep.
later. Tight draft capital doesn't matter nearly as much relative to other positions as
Yep.
for tight ends. But I really do see a path for relevancy in 12 personnel immediately this season, and then as the long term Juwan Johnson replacement in New Orleans. And that's an offense that I think is ascending and is something that I would be interested in. What do you think, though?
Yeah, that's a great shout out there. And I mean, that's something that I've kind of like noted, just like throughout the years is like there's a super high correlation between draft capital and running back success, and there's a pretty high correlation between receiver draft capital. But like when it comes to tight ends, I mean, there's just all kinds of examples of guys that are not first round picks. I mean, George Kittle, Travis Kelsey, list goes way on. I mean, there's maybe more first round tight end busts than there are hits, and so I'm
Yep.
always pro hoard the tight end and just keep a bunch of them on your roster. Delp is a guy like that where he's going to be able to see the field. Really limited production profile at Georgia, but you can make some excuses there. Um, Pretty intrigued by him, and like, I mean, you know, New Orleans has a lot of guys there now. Tyson, Olave, obviously. Are you talking about Kellen Moore kind of leading the ship here? I think Delp has a lot of upside long term, and I have no problem, um, you know, at the 2-3 turn if you can get him there. But what I wanted to ask you about is because we were talking about Zachariah Branch. The reason I was a little bit lower on Zachariah Branch is because I saw Jacoby Lane scored 12 touchdowns as a sophomore, and then I saw Zachariah Branch transfer from USC to Georgia. So I'm like, man, Jacoby Lane just kind of mogged him. Granted, they're way different types of players, but like,
Yeah.
you know, I saw a dozen touchdowns, and then I saw the other guy transfer, and I'm like, I don't know, Jim. And so here we are, Jacoby Lane. I want to like him as a prospect, but I like the Elijah Surratt more as a prospect. Jacoby Lane gets the third round draft capital versus Elijah Surratt getting the fourth round draft capital, both going to the same team. What do we do about this? I mean, I still want to rank Surratt higher. I think he has more of a chance to be a target hog there. But I mean, what's your take?
I'm a Ravens fan, actually.
Okay.
So I see Lane as a situational red zone threat that's going to be kind of a frustrating player to try to predict. He's going to be more of your, if you do sports betting, your anytime touchdown kind of a guy.
Oh man.
Whereas I think Surratt can play more of a role, but he doesn't separate the best. And I think he's more of a possession guy personally. I think he's much better from the slot. And I do think, to be fair, he's going to get some slot usage. I think you're going to get some Zay Flowers out there. Like it's one of these things where I would be, if I was going to invest in the Ravens offense, I would much more rather invest in Lamar, Henry, and Zay Flowers than
Mhm.
necessarily any of the other periphery options. But there's a chance I'm wrong. I liked I thought, I thought that there was some kind of Jacoby Myers, Keenan Allen to Surratt's game.
For sure.
Um, just once again, and much like Keenan Allen, not the ridiculous athlete that some of these other guys that have produced for us in fantasy are. And so I do think that there's a chance he's an outlier. Um, and we'll see as to whether kind of the Greg Roman, Todd Munkin um, offensive systems have been more of the reason why we don't see a lot of elite receiver production in general from the Ravens, or if it's maybe just that Lamar doesn't utilize them as much and it's more of a Lamar issue.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really tough one because for Surratt, like he just has all the production stats in the world. I mean, you're a big Omar Cooper guy, but Surratt led the team in target share back-to-back years, scored all those touchdowns, all those catches.
Slant boy.
It's yeah, man,
RPO slant boy.
for sure. And like,
He's good though. Yeah, I like
yeah,
him.
Jesse was talking about, I mean, the Keenan Allen comp there, where like if you're not a crazy athlete and you're like a bigger body guy that's just locking down those slants on the contested catches, you're gonna get the Keenan Allen comp. And nobody has been Keenan Allen since then. He's just such a savant. But if there is someone that's gonna be an outlier, I want to bet on all that production. So I think I'm leaning Surratt over Lane straight up, which is really weird because I very rarely do that when it comes to two teammates drafted at the same position. But I'm doing that also for Miami for Caleb Douglas and Chris Bell, just because of the priors on Chris Bell being so much higher. But I'm very intrigued to see what happens to Douglas. But that's not here nor there because we already talked about that. So
Yeah. Looking at some other players. I have my rankings list pulled up just so I
oh
have
shoot,
everybody here. Um,
Okay.
I feel like I think that Sadiq isn't really being talked about too much now. For better or for worse, you could argue there's a reason why because of the situation.
Yeah.
You know, I I've seen all kinds of takes on this, and one of the funnier ones to me, and I don't know what your opinion was of him, but I've seen a lot of, oh, he has to contend with Mason Taylor. And let me tell you something. Mason Taylor, and I am not lying to you. He's the lowest graded player I've ever scouted before. Like
Ever?
I he yeah, tight end.
Yeah.
Tight
Oh
end.
my god.
Relative specific to positional rankings. He's a terrible run blocker. In college, for instance, I saw two plays, and this is just embarrassing, where he blocked his defenders into his own guys. Like where he should
Come
have
on,
been able,
bro.
if he had the functional play strength, he should have had the leverage to force his guy around, but he blocks him into his own guys. He seemed like a really low IQ player to me. He
Yeah.
missed blocks too. Didn't put up really any receiving output. He got the second round draft capital. I think he was the beneficiary of being a legendary pass rusher's son
Yeah.
and the last name with a Taylor last name. And he's a decent athlete, but nothing special by tight end standards. And I just think that the argument that he has to contend with Mason Taylor is ridiculous to me. He's a
For
better
sure.
blocker than Taylor and a significantly better athlete with much better yak ability.
Yeah. I'm not gonna act like I did as extensive of a Mason Taylor scouting process, but I was never a fan of him. D- d- didn't pop for me, and so I haven't seen that conversation a lot. But I saw it once, and I just kind of like scoffed at it because I didn't really consider him a threat. The thing
Like,
with like,
why?
yeah,
He had Garrett Wilson for a couple games and then no one else to contend with, and he didn't produce. If you want to talk about Miami's lack of target competition, baby,
yeah,
like who was he contending with for targets with?
it's
Nobody, and he didn't
ridiculous.
produce at all, man.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
and yeah, and like even like I mean, like Gunnar Helm had some big games last year. Like I don't want to shit on Gunnar Helm, but like
I
he
like
was a
him way better.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like Helm
Yes.
has some stuff to like. Helm's not a great athlete, which is I want to see my tight ends be great athletes, but I guess this kind of goes into the next point of Sadiq being a monster athlete, just like Stowers. I mean, I think it's pretty much wheels up long term for him. I think we're gonna get 1 year of Geno, and then like hopefully we get Arch Manning or something.
They have three
Yeah,
firsts. They're getting a quarterback. Like they will either trade multiple firsts to move up, or they get one themselves with their pick.
yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, Sadiq should be all right long term. I just don't. I mean, like maybe Taylor takes some snaps here and there, but like he's if Sadiq is half the player that we think he is, Taylor would be no problem. So I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah, and I don't want to pretend like I'm the biggest Sadiq guy or anything. Like that's it's just that the argument I heard for that, which it was on the Dynasty subreddit. I like to go to different sources to try to get public opinion, so I can use that to manipulate in my leagues.
For sure.
So I can have a better idea of what other people are thinking, so that I can figure out the market and manipulate it. But yeah, when I saw that argument, it baffled me. I mean, if you're going to talk about the target competition, it's the Garrett Wilson, it's it's the Omar Cooper,
Yeah,
uh, and the Geno Smith at the helm argument, not not the Mason Taylor one. And
yeah.
even I would fear Brees Hall eating into his targets more than Mason Taylor. As sad as that should be to say.
I mean, Brees Hall is a beast. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, there's nothing that he can't do except for get out of the Jets organization. So I mean, poor guy. But
You said you had mentioned the other day you did a live right about Jadarian Price. If you want to give like, I'm curious what your kind of a brief summarization of what you were thinking about him.
oh man, I just got so many thoughts, so many thoughts. So it's probably almost 5 months ago now. I did a video with Jesse where we talked about Price versus Coleman for like 45 minutes at least. So what it comes down to is like in this whole process, uh, up until there was separation this like past month, this whole process it was kind of who is the RB2? Like it wasn't a foregone conclusion. It was like, some people like Coleman, some people like Price, some people might even like Mike Washington, and they'd be wrong, but like some people might like him. So it's like Coleman, Price, Coleman, Price, Coleman, Price. And I was looking at those guys as like let's say that they're gonna get the same draft capital. I looked at Jonah Coleman as a far more projectable role. Like I see him being the bowling ball build, being an adequate pass catcher, and I can see him toting the rock 150 times, like 200 times maybe, and catching some balls. And I can see him being a pretty safe fantasy option. I mean, this is like going back like when we thought that they were going to get the same draft capital. And I was like, okay, if that is the thing that you're getting from Coleman, a projectable role, Price is more of a mystery box. Like, and I don't want to use his lack of production and like substitute that for like, oh, like he's a mystery box, but like in many ways he really was. Like he's not like he's not like a Roshan Johnson. Like he like read more like, and there's two comps that I kind of use. If you want to get really optimistic, he's like a Josh Jacobs, but that's not fair because Josh Jacobs was the head of his committee with Damian Harris. He was the Jeremiah Love, right?
Hmm.
Price kind of looks more like a Kenyon Drake, which wouldn't be a great outcome, but like a little bit lighter in a committee, a little more efficient. But the comps are kind of relevant. What I was trying to like get at was if we can give Coleman a very projectable role and like see his skill set being, top 24, top 25 running back, I feel like Price just has he's the term to use isn't boom bust, but like Price like he's a decent runner, but he came in lighter than we thought, and he didn't have any pass catching work in college. So like, if you're gonna squint and make excuses for that, you look at how dynamic he was as a returner. 3 returns for touchdowns this year on like 20 or on like 20 returns. 2 of them going for 100+ yards. So like, there's some juice there, some dynamism there. You can kind of squint and maybe look past the pass catching and be like, okay, maybe he'll be able to catch some balls in the league. But granted, that's very dangerous because he did quite literally nothing as a pass catcher in college. Like he only had a handful of catches. And so if you can really squint, like maybe you can talk yourself into him being a pass catcher, but I'm not gonna make the argument. The argument that I will make though is that he will be an outlierish goal line guy for his size. Time and time and time and time and time again. If you want to talk about the anytime touchdowns, he was an anytime touchdown lock at Notre Dame. It was the exact opposite scenario of the of Seattle where like there was like all these memes where like Kenneth Walker gets him to the one and then Sharp punches it in. It was Jeremiah Love going down the field, and then for some reason, the ND staff said, we want Jadarian Price at the goal line. And they put him in and he punched in the touchdown. And week after week after week, he scored the touchdowns. And he had a baker's dozen touchdowns this year on the ground on like less than 700 yards. Very outlier stuff there. Goes to the combine, weighs in at 203, which is like, how are you 203 and an elite goal line back? It's incongruent. It doesn't make any sense. I'm like, man, how do we make sense of the profile? Then, of course, he goes round one, and I'm like, shit, it's going to be more fuel to the fire. But here's what it comes down to is if we can agree that he's a decent runner, which, like, if he wasn't a decent runner, why would he be drafted in the first round? Why would he even be in these conversations with, Coleman, who has running skills, size, and pass catching skills? If we can agree that he's just a decent runner, then we can start to kind of tell ourselves this like upside case. If he's a decent runner at 203, 205, and he can still have some of this goal line work that he had in college. Now, granted, that is kind of tough because the Seattle staff was really stingy with who they're giving like this like goal line work to. But at 203, 205, and him being a goal line back, that'd be pretty outlier. Now, like it's possible from college, but like there's a really unique upside case there where like he's this light guy, he's a very efficient runner, and he's a goal line back. The full upside case is when you squint and see him and he turns some of this like return ability, this like punt return ability into maybe some fluid pass catching, which like that's a lot more like unlikely. But like even if he just has some goal line carries and can like develop that skill in the pros to a certain degree from college, I see a lot of upside in a guy that's gonna get a bunch of carries and a Seattle offense that's gonna be good and he's gonna have a lot of chances to score at the goal line, which he was a total outlier in college. So like, even if you don't want to tell yourself the story of him being a pass catcher, I still think him being a good enough runner and getting some goal line carries gives him more upside than a lot of people like want to give him credit for. And it's like coming in at 203 hurts really, really, really bad for me. But I'm still willing to squint because he is just one big outlier. You know, being the number two on his team, going in the first round, coming in at 203 and scoring 13 touchdowns last year, like none of it makes sense. So you need to add some context behind the numbers. And so, I mean, I could keep kind of like going here, but that's kind of like the 2 cents of it. And the gist is like he's just a total outlier, and you need to make some excuses for the context because like it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense at all. First round profile, all of it.
Yeah. So my actual, what's funny is my comp for him was a Kenneth Walker type of runner.
Hmm.
So, and I made I made the prospect profile video for him 3 months ago. So
Yeah.
I didn't know that he was going there, obviously. I like a lot about, and I actually like the fit. So the reason being, now I expected this to be in the second round, 64th overall,
Yep.
not 32nd overall. So the reason I like his situation to a degree as far as the fit for him, is that they hired the 49ers tight ends coach, Brian Fleury, and
Okay.
it's expected that they're going to retain the system in which they used this past season in Seattle, which is the under center, wide zone, play action, boot scheme. And so what I like about that is I like that. See, I think he's a little bit more decisive with his vision than Kenneth Walker was as a prospect, and I think that's
Okay.
one thing Price has going for him. But the one thing I really like is that, much like with Kenneth Walker, he's so smooth, and he kind of reminds me in a way of Bucky Irving when he runs, in the way
Yes.
he weaves all around the field while kind of keeping the lateral movement that and speed going while he's doing so. He doesn't
Mhm.
have top end burner speed or anything as far as the maximum speed in which he
Yeah.
achieves, but I upside with I think somebody with Halani there potentially stealing some of that.
Yeah.
I could see Emmanuel Wilson stealing some of that, and I just don't know that he's going to necessarily be a bell cow like people think. Although I do think he'll be used much like Kenneth Walker was in terms of the actual deployment and role.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I really like you like um bringing that up too because I think Bucky Irving is my like play style comp. Like there's I was trying to like make a comp between like those like Alabama guys because those were guys that were in committees and like Drake had the efficiency that like Price had, and uh, Josh Jacobs is the only I believe day one or two running back to have less than 300 total touches in his whole career. So that's why I kind of like bring up like those guys. But when it comes down to it, he plays football to me like Bucky Irving, like just the smoothness and the fluidity, and that's why like the smoothness and the fluidity combined with the dynamism. That's why I think he has an outside chance of bucking the norm and being a pass catcher because like he's so smooth and he's so fluid, and at just 200 pounds, like I'd be surprised if it doesn't at least develop from a non-zero. Like we're looking at him like coming in as like, okay, this guy has no receiving upside, but like there's just a couple things that I can like piece together and tell myself a story of him catching 20, 30 balls sometime, which is like it's not going to be great, but like that would be huge if he's still a good runner and a goal line back. Like that's how you get the elite upside there. So um I love that Bucky Irving take there. Love it, love it, love it. And I made that before and people haven't heard it. Like they didn't believe me, but I'm glad that you see that too, bro, because I see Bucky Irving a lot with him.
If you've watched him, you would see
For
that.
real.
But
Exactly.
yeah. If you look at highlights, I mean, even if you don't actually look at the L-22 like I do when I scout players and cut it up and try to assess the traits that they have, how successful they generally are in whatever scheme they're being asked to run, and what you might be able to project they could do at the next level, or if they're a fit for somebody. If you, all you would have to do is look at some simple highlights to see the way in which he weaves around the field to see that comparison. Honestly, you don't
Yeah,
even have
man.
to know what you're talking about. You could just plain as day see that.
Yeah, and like not only that, but like Bucky Irving, for my bet, is one of the most unique, uh, I guess, like players in the whole NFL in terms of him being lighter but still being able to run in every scenario between the tackles, breaking tackles, yards after contact. Like, I mean, I'm not saying Bucky Irving is this great, like the like perfect running back, but for being that size, like there's just not a lot of guys that are 200 ish pounds that can run in a variety of ways like that. And I think Price has that juice there. So
Yeah. Um, Now somebody else. So somebody that I'm gonna here's the one we haven't talked about. We've talked
Okay.
about a lot of things. Here's the thing,
Oh.
Carnell Tate. I've been waiting to
Mm.
talk to you about this for the longest time.
Yep.
So I just want to make mention that I have no problem with him. He seems like a really good dude. And I think he's one of the safest picks. I think he's arguably the safest receiver as far as with what he does well in the role I think he's going to be asked to play. I will be shocked if he is a complete bust. He has great hands, he's good against man coverage. He could stand to get better against press in my opinion, but he's fine enough to where I don't think it'll be an issue. But X like generally X specific wide receivers with no yak ability. Devonte Adams and arguably T. Higgins are the only guys that fit this mold that are really good fantasy producers. And T. Higgins is with Joe Burrow, and Devonte Adams is with Matthew Stafford. So not
Oh
only do you
man.
need better quarterback play for somebody like that, for his targets to be more efficient, you have to really believe in Cam Ward. Now, if you
Yeah.
believe in Cam Ward, then I get it. But then
Yeah.
the other thing is Dayball's offense. Dayball's offense, people will say, and it's true, that they feature a wide receiver one heavily in that offense. Well, for instance, when we look at Dable with the Giants, he had Malik Neighbors. Malik
Yeah.
Neighbors is much more versatile, much better, and much more fluid in terms of what he can do on the field than Carnell Tate, in my
No,
opinion.
it's not even
I just
close. Yeah.
think the upside is not going to be there, and I think what you're going to get is a lot of 5 for 150 in one games, and then a lot of 0 for 40 and zero, or 3 for 40 and zero games,
Right.
and it's going to be a very frustrating play. And I think that long term, and then you have to worry: do they replace him with an actual wide receiver one?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, so many things to say about that, and I mean, I largely agree with it. Like, we mentioned this last time. He is the profile of a take the top off the defense type guy, but he doesn't have the speed to do that. Um, he is the profile of the I'm gonna out bully, out physical you, but he's not even 200 pounds. It's like, and
Yes, that's a
I mean,
big
like,
concern.
yeah, and like, so
Adams
like you
is
mentioned,
212.
no, for real. And so
Yes,
Adams, Higgins, I mean, those guys are great. One of the comps last time that we talked about was George Pickens. But here's the thing.
he
George
has no
Pickens
yak though.
wasn't Yeah, and George Pickens wasn't George Pickens until he got a quarterback. Like,
Yes.
there's a lot of things that you need to have this go right, and like one of them is the quarterback. Even if Cam Ward's good, Carnell Tate might not be as advertised. If Cam Ward is good, Carnell Tate might not be as advertised because you're taking him with the second pick in the whole draft. Like, what are we doing here? And I get that he went, number 4 overall. And I'm not even a Tyler Shuck fan, but it is so easily Jordan Tyson over Carnell Tate for me. And like,
Yes.
if you want to push some narratives, we could put more players ahead of him. But like, I like some people have said this is a B plus or an A minus landing spot. Like, I don't know about that. Like, I don't think it's that smooth
There's
for Carnell
worse.
Tate.
There's
Yeah,
worse spots. Uh,
yeah,
it's just, yeah. It's not like if he had gone, like, let's say the Patriots don't sign Romeo Dobbs
yeah.
and he goes to the Patriots. He's with May, one of the most accurate quarterbacks, especially deep down the field. Yeah, I believe he is top three in deep ball completion percentage, but I think it's really more so deep ball catchable percentage, which is more
Mhm.
important. And if that had happened, I would love the landing. That's probably like the best landing spot in terms of lack of competition and quarterback play.
Yeah.
But you like you said, you really have to trust Cam Ward, man. And I just
Mhm.
think you're going to get a frustrating player that I doubt he busts because I think you get like at best, I think you get kind of what you get from Alec Pierce.
Mm. Oh man, that
Maybe a
that
little bit.
yeah,
I think he's better at the catch point arguably than Pierce, but he doesn't have Pierce's speed
yeah.
either.
Here's something that I want to ask you because I mean, it seems like you know like we're talking about with the like, I guess, like, evaluation of tape and like how like the quarterback and receiver is gonna like translate. What do you think about his quarterback Julian Sand? Do you think
Hmm?
there's a lot like is his like crazy 85% deep ball completion percentage, is that more on Tate or is that on Sand? Because like if Sand is like a total monster, like there's no guarantee that like Ward is going to be much better relative to competition at least.
Yeah, so Julian Sand is one of these guys. I would comp him to kind of like a Brock Purdy,
Okay.
where he doesn't have a lot of arm strength. And you'll see this on a lot of Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate highlights, where sometimes the ball placement is fine in the sense if it's near the receiver, but it deep down the field specifically is what I'm talking about. He doesn't have the arm strength to really get it out there in front of him, and some of these they could have had a couple of touchdowns that were just long completions because of it. But in
Yeah.
the short to intermediate area of the field, he's laser accurate. He's a good processor. He's not going to bring a lot of rushing upside, but I think he's kind of like a Brock Purdy in terms of kind of is the first player that comes to mind as far as being a little bit shorter, not the arm strength, and kind of just a smart player with really good accuracy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, because one of the big, I guess, like selling points for Tate was like how efficient he was down the field. I mean,
Yeah,
massive completion percentage, big yards per catch. But a lot of the time, I was watching Sand, and he was just putting it on the money. I mean, like,
accurate,
you know, yeah,
really
and
accurate.
we're gonna expect Cam Ward to be better than Sand. I mean, he's a fucking NFL quarterback, but like relative to competition, like there's no guarantee that Ward is gonna be as good for him as Sand was. I mean, like it's kind of a like weird point to like articulate, but we really need Ward to be as advertised for Tate to do anything near what we think that he can. And so for that reason, I went Tyson. I might even want Lemon. I definitely went Mendoza and Superflex. I mean, there's just like not as many question marks there, and I don't know if the ceiling is there for Tate. So with top three
It's
pick,
the weekly ceiling, like I'll say this, the weekly ceiling any given week. Now, he's not DK Metcalf as far as talent, but when I say Alec Pierce and DK Metcalf, I mean think of like the stat lines kind of the all right, now this guy could drop 5 for 150 and two.
yeah,
It's like you're saying, if he gets one of those deep balls for a touchdown and then a couple chunk gains, um, maybe if he sees some more middle of the field usage than I'm expecting potentially. But I just think you're going to get a really high variance player. Whereas with Tyson, yeah, there's added injury risk. Yeah, he's not the clear dominant wide receiver one. The floor is the floor in terms of like not as a prospect. I think Carnell Tate's a safer
yeah,
prospect because of Tyson's injury history, but as far as the weekly floor of the projected role, I think we see a lot of F, a lot of slot, a lot of Z for Jordan Tyson. And those
hmm
targets, in and of themselves, are significantly easier to convert than like Tate's will be deep down the field. So I think you're
hmm
going to get more weekly volume, so a safer floor. And then I think the offense, I like Tyler Shuck better than Cam Ward, but I could understand if somebody liked Cam Ward more.
fair,
And I think that not being the main primary focus of the defense right away to start out your NFL career is going to really help him. Whereas Carnell Tate, you're getting the cornerback one and you're getting safety help. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. And I mean that just goes to my like next question is here. How do you think that obviously my goat Chikakonkwu gone from Tennessee there. Now he's with the Commanders and he is cock blocking Ben Sanat, so that kind of sucks. But we got Alec Aomanor and Tremere DK. Either of those guys going to do anything next year, or are they just complimentary pieces?
Um, so I think to answer your question immediately before I get into somewhat of an explanation of what I think yes, they're going to be complementary pieces. I think that my bold take, I don't think this should be that bold. It could not happen for sure.
Okay,
I think that Wendell Robinson, first of all, leads this team in targets.
fair. Yeah.
I think he's more of a high volume projected role, and familiarity with the Dayball offense. So I think that's not even that bold, but some people will say that, and it's
Yeah.
fine. But I think that DK is going to play kind of a sacrificial deep role. Sometimes maybe as an X, sometimes as a vertical Z for them. And I think Airmaner just kind of flips around the receiver positions. But I think that Wandale Robinson, Carnell Tate, and uh, uh,
Aomanor?
my boy, tight end Gunnar Helm.
Oh, yeah.
I think that those three lead the team in targets most likely in this Dayball offense. And I think that with Chigo Conquo,
Okay.
if you remember this past season, or not Chig, if you remember this past season, Theo Johnson in New York under Dayball,
hmm
he was a really good he saw a lot of red zone opportunity.
Yep.
And so I think Gunnar Helm may, in this new Dable offense, see a lot of opportunity in the red zone. And Cam Ward, what one of the best things about him is his ability to extend the play to wait for something to happen. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw some crossbody touchdowns this past season when he was balling. And so I think that Gunnar Helm is one of the better, really dirt cheap tight end buys in Dynasty.
I like that a lot. And Gunnar Helm. Hey, and Theo Johnson is a great shout because he was an awesome streamer this past year. Scored some clutch touchdowns for me when I needed a tight end there. So
Really talented player, man.
yeah, man. But yeah, great shout there with Wandale too. I mean, I think he got like 4 for 76 maybe or something. I mean, he got a decent amount of money there, and I don't think the target um the target leading take is that bold because like I mean, maybe if you said like yards or touchdowns or fantasy points, it might be bold, but like Wandale's gonna get fed underneath, just like he did last year, and I would not be shocked to see him get more targets than Tate. And I would selfishly love that because I've been on the Tate hate train for a while now. But I think it's pretty realistic too. So
Yeah, and I'll just say I don't have any hate for Cardinal Tate personally. I just the role in and of like the an X receiver, a primary X without yak ability, you need them to be T Higgins or Devontae Adams, or you're not getting somebody with elite upside. And with Jordan Tyson, if he really does hit his max ceiling, I
oh yeah,
could see a Justin Jefferson type of player with the way he runs his routes. He does have to get more consistent against man coverage with extra wasted movement in terms of head and shoulder fakes that sometimes he does so fast that it doesn't even fool the defender because the defender doesn't have time to be fooled by it.
yeah,
But if you see the flexion in his ankles when he was running that is either a juke route, I think it was a zig route, on those one-on-one like
I
drills
saw
right
that
before the
clip.
draft. If you looked at the ankle flexion, it's the exact type of thing that we see with Justin Jefferson, and that's some of the traits of the elite route runners that they have. He doesn't have the best catch radius necessarily, but he has this ability to contort his body, hang in the air. I think he's going to be a serious red zone threat on some of those fade routes too.
Hmm.
And I just over and above all, I love Kellen Moore as a coach, and I trust coaches like him, Ben Johnson, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan to know what the strengths of their players are and get the most out of them and use them in
Yep,
ways that complement them.
that's my biggest thing too. Is like you can debate until you're blue in the face about Cam Ward versus Tyler Shuck, and hey, I'm a huge draft capital guy. I hate seeing Tate go fourth and Tyson go eighth, but I'm willing to see that because I feel way more comfortable with Tyson being used in the right way and him just hitting his ceiling, at least in this contract with this infrastructure. Because like Moore's that guy. Ever since Boise State, Moore's been that guy. I mean, like we've seen his offensive mastermind just grow and grow and grow, and like it's ready to take off, man. So Olave, Tyson, can't get enough of them, and Oscar Delp as well. Great shot there.
Absolutely. Is there anybody else that comes to mind? Makai Lemon, somebody that
Mm,
I was really high on pre-draft. It's not that I don't like him now. I just questioned the fit in Philadelphia because Hertz doesn't use the middle of the field. That's where Lemon typically thrives in the slot, especially. Then they draft Eli
Stowers,
Stowers,
yeah.
and also very good, but they're both kind of slot guys. Now I can definitely see Makai Lemon in a condensed formation, potentially playing a little bit of X. I don't think that's his. I don't think he's going to see too much of that though. But I think he can play Z for them on the outside. I think they're going to have to supplement some of that middle of the field usage that Hurts rather doesn't utilize with some screen game utilization.
Mm,
But I just think that I think he has a really safe floor. I think he's a talented player and he's really good at yak, something I really value for fantasy. But I think that the ceiling in this offense that doesn't utilize the middle of the field probably does limit his ceiling.
fair, fair. Yeah, man. I mean, I guess like not a lot to add there. Yeah. I mean, there's there's like something to say about that. Like, I don't know what to really do with this guy, Malachi Fields. Though, I mean, this is someone that I wasn't super high on like coming in, but I feel like he was misutilized. I kind of see him maybe being like more of a possession receiver in the league where he was. being used as like a field stretcher this past season at Notre Dame, where I don't know if that's really his role. Like I don't think he's athletic enough to like get downfield like that. But um, I hate to use this name because there's a very low chance that he ends up being like this good. But like in the same way that like Michael Pittman like moves the chains, I could see Fields doing that if he really like breaks right. And here's why I'm saying that is because it comes down to him being like in the vacated role, like no Wandale Robinson, it's Malik Neighbors, and I mean it could be him. And like I have a lot of faith in Jackson Dart. Like if Fields can seize a top two or three spot on this team here, like pecking order wise, I think he has some upside. And like he's gonna bring something. I mean, like it's not like uh Neighbors needs help, but like he brings something different than Neighbors. I mean, like going that early in the draft. Um, I mean, I wouldn't take him that early, but he got like what 70th draft capital or something there, and there's a pretty vacant room there for him to kind of make his mark on. So I think he's a little bit of a riser for me post draft.
Yeah, so he was drafted 74th overall, so you were right about the draft capital. So looking at the receiver room, you have Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Darnell Mooney, and then Malachi Fields as
Mooney,
guys who
yeah,
I would say probably see the field more. I could see some X work for Malachi Fields. I think Darius Slayton is probably their primary X, though. Maybe a vertical Z as well.
yeah.
Obviously, Neighbors is going to be the guy when he's healthy that's getting most of the target volume. I think you see Darnell Mooney working as kind of a slot, but probably more so a Z. I think he could be a touchdown threat though. Six
Mm,
foot four. Um, I definitely think like we've been saying throughout the entirety of this live stream that if you have a guy, just go get him because
mhm.
looking back at it, there are almost certainly going to be guys that produce in this draft. Part of the reason I'm so down is just on the class as a whole, not necessarily Fields,
Yeah.
is just because of how much you're going to have to guess to be correct about that. But um, yeah, I like Jackson Dart as well, and I like their decision to invest in guard so that the offensive line can try to protect Jackson Dart from himself,
Oh
but
yeah.
he also has to protect him from himself to be fair.
No kidding. Yeah. I mean, Dart was taking a lot of bonehead plays there. Probably should just went out of bounds or slid, but I mean, I like Fields there. I love them investing in line. I mentioned these guys way earlier. Both the Penn State running backs and Jonah Coleman all have some sorts of reasons to be like optimistic. I just want to get your take on any of those guys, but if not any of them, then Jonah Coleman because I feel like we haven't talked about him in Denver a lot.
So Jonah Coleman, I can have a take on all of them, honestly. Jonah
Yeah.
Coleman. So goes to Denver. Immediately, he's buried on the depth chart, assuming everyone stays healthy.
Yeah.
Now, granted, if there was ever I mean an individual running back you had to bet your life on to miss time, it's J.K. Dobbins. It's
Yeah.
happened literally every single season,
Yeah.
without doubt. And now people will say it's dumb to predict injuries when you can't say with 100% certainty, but if you were forced gun to your head to pick somebody to miss time, it's J.K. Dobbins. Now,
Good
in the
bet. Yeah.
event that happens, I think the upside is limited because I do think that while he's perfectly adequate in pass pro and a decent enough receiver, I think RJ is a much better receiver specifically.
Yeah.
But I do think that he could get a good amount of usage on the ground, and that is a good offense to be a part of as far as touchdown upside, assuming he ends up being good. I wasn't the biggest Jonah Coleman guy. I think part of it is I just didn't like what I saw because he played through a PCL injury, so it just kind of hurt his
Yes.
explosiveness. So I think that's part of it. I just didn't wasn't that impressed, but I understood the context of this guy's just toughing it out and actually playing when some people wouldn't even be there.
Hmm.
Um, so there's that. Somebody I think has a ton of upside. We mentioned Emmett Johnson actually. Who did
Yes,
you
sir.
say? You said
I was talking about both of the Penn State guys.
Oh, okay, yeah. So Katron Allen, I really like him. I think that he could be kind of a Chris Rodriguez, where he could be kind of a flex play with touchdown upside on a weekly basis. Now Nick Singleton, I don't think he's good at football. I think
Yeah.
he's a good at running the ball. I mean, make sure I specify. He's a really good receiver. You can put him outside. You can put him in the slot. I think he has a really good receiving profile. I just don't think he's a talented runner. But also at Penn State, they run a power scheme, and that was much more in favor of what Katron Allen does, as opposed to Nick Singleton, who would have been a better fit for like a wide or mid zone because he
Interesting.
could use the one cut ability and then explode through with his ridiculous speed.
Yeah.
But just not a power guy. Now, I don't know who I forget. Oh, the Titans. The
Yeah.
Titans are Brian Dayball. So I forget what they do. I think they're my gap. I think they're more of a gap running team, if I remember correctly. Maybe that's just because they had Scattaboo.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, I just look at like both these guys and like I'm not dying to draft either of them, but on one case we got Bill Krosky Merritt as the big pundit here, the incumbent that's gonna get touches. Like, I think Katron could seize that role. I mean, like, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that he'll be the lead back, but like, it's at least in the range of outcomes for a pretty good offense, as I was talking about with Antonio Williams. So I'm starting to like Katron as like one of my like favorite guys in that like range there. But Singleton, it's a little harder for me. I'm a huge fan of Tony Pollard. I'm an even bigger fan of Tajay Spears. So I don't know where Singleton fits in if all those guys are healthy. I don't think Pollard's there long term, but it's a little bit tougher there. But like, I mean, like none of those guys are like the elite like cream of the crop running back. So I wanted to give Singleton a shout out, but I do think Katron Allen has a more clear path to touches, and he's probably better at football as it stands right now. So
Yeah, I'd agree. Somebody else we haven't mentioned.
I
Well,
mean,
we haven't mentioned Ty Simpson
okay,
yet.
yeah. Um, I think he has crazy upside. I mean, that's not a hot take, but like, I think he has almost unparalleled upside in this class. Like, there's just a world where he's the McVay starting quarterback in a year or two, which is like, I mean, you obviously want that. I wasn't a big fan of Ty Simpson's tape, nor am I a fan of him getting 15 career starts and being what 23 or something.
Yep.
So I don't know, man. I mean, what's your take on him?
So with Ty Simpson, I think it's a tale of two halves. In the beginning of the collegiate season, he was absolutely balling. You saw his ability to uncork the deep ball with some reasonable accuracy. He dealt with a lot of drops from Ryan Williams. Um, didn't have the most talent around him, I would say, in terms of like when you think of Alabama in general compared to most seasons.
Yeah,
But then he was dealing with multiple injuries. I believe a back injury, a rib injury, and I could definitely tell that his play hampered off directly after when it was specified that he was injured. So I think that a lot of the hate that he gets from some people are from people that either willingly or just unknowingly, unintentionally ignore the nuance of playing through an injury. That's
yeah,
the same thing I said about Jonah Coleman, somebody
yeah,
that I didn't like the tape as much, but when you think about it in the context of this guy probably shouldn't even be playing right now, he's just tough.
yeah,
That's the thought process for me, and I love that he gets to sit behind an MVP. He's
yeah,
assuming McVay doesn't retire behind Sean McVay, and then he has potentially Puka Nakua for the long term if he can stop doing Puka things. Uh, and it just you could not have asked for a better situation to not only have to or be able to sit, but to be behind Stafford and with McVay. You got
yeah.
anything else?
I mean, do you have a take on the clip where Ty Simpson gets drafted and then Sean McVay is being a party pooper and he's like, "Yeah, man, like we're gonna make history. All right, kid, whatever." Like so. Is that like Sean McVay getting backdoored and like he didn't want that pick, or
Yes.
am I like overthinking it? Yeah.
You aren't overthinking it. You're thinking it, and that's the truth in my subjective opinion,
Oh
allegedly.
boy. Okay.
So
Okay.
because we wouldn't want to accuse anybody of anything that we can't technically prove. So this is all alleged, of course, obviously.
Allegedly,
Um,
right?
all right. But yeah, you could tell that he definitely he looked as though he was pissed off in that press conference. I don't think the lighting helped because they had it like super dark in there and like they were like this and stuff.
Yeah.
It was but Sean McVay he just looked angry. I saw body language such as just This and stuff
Yeah,
that you do when you're angry and you're just trying to not let out emotion. And he
for
was
sure.
very short. Like he looked more angry than he does after a tough loss.
Yeah, bro. I mean, it was really damning because like I wanted to be all aboard the Simpson hype train and be like, hey, I have a QB1 in here, a young QB1, and then it's like Sean looks like he wants to kill him. I mean, it's like, geez. So I don't know, man. But
Yeah, he was
yeah,
not happy. He wanted Makai Lemon. If I would put a lot of money on him wanting Makai Lemon there for a win now piece to add to that core, and they chose to look for the future.
yeah, yeah. It's I mean, it's not the same circumstance, but like when Jordan Love was drafted, when the Packers had Rodgers, it was like a lot of bitterness there from Rodgers. Now we're seeing bitterness from the head coach. So I mean, I don't know. Interesting parallel there to say. But when it comes down to Ty Simpson, like I feel comfortable with him in the top 10 of Superflex, maybe even higher. Like I can easily see the upside case so easily. I don't want to do all the names, but I think the top 10 comes down to like um all the guys that have been taken. So like plus like Casey plus Price plus the two tight ends, and then I think it's Simpson mixed 10, and then you got Boston and Cooper as the last two in the first round, and then after that, it is an absolute chasm to the next player. Like it could quite literally be Antonio Williams after that. Like as I've been saying a bunch. So yeah, it helps to have Ty Simpson as at least having 12 guys in the first round that are good, but pretty fucked up past pick 12 there. So
Yeah, this is the biggest drop off, and in my opinion, Jeremiah Love is the only elite blue chip like actual first round definitive talent without question marks
yeah.
in this entire class. Like if I had pick like if I had one of these mid first or late first, I only kept picks where I knew I was going to have 101
Hmm.
because I just didn't want anything to do with it. But if, like we said at the kind of beginning, if you can trade up to get Jeremiah Love, if you, I would either trade up to get one of these guys that you feel way more confident in, or trade out entirely. I would. This is one class where I would not be trading down at all, unless, well, really, just I wouldn't
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to it because like once you're like trading down, like then like those guys at the lower half of the draft are being like it's those guys first like who's on your roster, and like there's some guys that we don't want to cut. So yeah, definitely like don't trade. Like there's only um half half of the first round is like solid, and then the other half is just all right. So like past that, man, don't do it to yourself. Just get whatever you can, get points, get like like I'm not even, and this is like left field take, but I'm not opposed to going and and like getting like a post hype sleeper like a Jack Besh maybe with the a third round pick here or something. Now I don't know if you're a Jack Besh fan, but I liked him last year, and he was obviously very underwhelming. But like someone like that's a post hype sleeper. You know, go ahead and trade a third or fourth round pick here because like who knows what if these guys will do anything. So um, it, if there's any sort of upside, go ahead and make that move.
Yeah. I've seen all kinds of, like I mentioned, I take a look at the Dynasty subreddit so that I can kind of gauge like a consensus, see who people are maybe trying to eye for a buy low situation to see if maybe, because while there's a lot of BS on there that's just a bunch of simple minded, useless takes that doesn't really have any context or thought behind it, there's some really intelligent people there.
Hmm.
Um, and I've been seeing a lot of people saying to try to target Besh. I've seen a lot of Tootin. I've
Mm,
seen some Chris Rodriguez as well, both
yes.
Jacksonville Jaguars running backs, depending on who you personally like. I'm curious, non rookie draft related. I'm personally more of a Tootin guy. I think that the receiving profile is there. He was the 10th most efficient running back in short yardage situations this past season in terms of
Oh boy.
success rate. But now his competition is Chris Rodriguez, who I think is more talented than people give him credit for, to be
Yep.
fair. But I don't see anyone on that team that is a good runner of the football and receiver of the football. Chris
Yeah.
Rodriguez can run the ball very effectively, and
Yeah.
you know, um, look, Quinn Allen is a good receiver, but he's the
Mhm.
only one that can do both, and so that's why I think he is the new ETN. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts, though?
Um, I mean, I would pretty much say about 85% of what you just said. So I'm not gonna like repeat that, but I love Chris Rodriguez as a bowling ball prospect coming out of Kentucky.
Hmm.
I also loved LaQuint Allen. I mean, those guys are both,
Yes.
but uh, Tootin has that rare intersection of, he's fast, he's good in the short yardage, he can catch the ball, he's heavy enough. I
Yep.
mean, he kind of checks all the boxes to be honest. And I'm a little bit of a hater because Gay Nick Akash is a big Tootin fan, so I don't want to give credit to him or his roommate over there.
I'm
But
gonna
yeah,
have to reevaluate my life now.
oh man, it's awful, it's awful. But yeah, I mean, I will give credit where it's due. Tootin feels like a really good buy low if you can get him for low, but like it feels like a lot of Tootin owners know what they have because like they've been holding on to him since the 1-2 turn last year, just praying, praying, praying. And it looked like he's gonna be up, top 15, top 15 this year and hit. So
It could be. It
yeah,
could be.
I mean,
I don't see any reason why this what ETN gave us this past season. Maybe a little bit less because he had 7 receiving touchdowns.
right.
ETN did maybe not quite that many touchdowns, but there's no reason why if he ends up being as good as we think that he can't do that.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I think they kind of showed what they thought of LaQuint Allen last year. Like, I don't think he's gonna get a lot of the work. Oh, it looks like Buddy's phone just.
Sorry,
Oh,
it went out a little bit. My
oh
bad.
no, oh no, you're right, bro.
What the hell just happened? Oh,
I
all
don't
right.
know. It looked like your phone died or something.
Crazy shit. But
But
yeah,
yeah, man. I mean, I think they kind of showed their hand with LaQuint Allen. They never gave him a lot of work. So bringing in Chris Rodriguez, I expect him to get a sizable portion of carries, maybe some early down work. But if there is someone that's gonna do an ETN performance, it's gonna be Tootin. I don't think it's gonna be like one for one, but there's certainly an upside case there. So I'm a very big fan of Tootin this year, and if you can get him for low, please do.
yeah. For instance, on the Reddit thing I was mentioning, where they were talking about some buy low guys or guys you could trade, for rookie picks and this and that. Somebody suggested like 3 seconds for Tootin, and I'm like, well, if I'm a Tootin owner, I don't want 3 seconds in this class.
Yeah,
Like in a normal class, that makes a lot of sense for a running back with low draft capital. But dude, like okay, like like who are you getting that has like as easy of a path to relevancy as Tootin in the second round? I mean, you're to be fair, like Emmett Johnson doesn't have as easy of a path. Jonah Coleman doesn't have as easy of a path. Mike Washington doesn't. Damon
yep,
Claiborne doesn't. Like all those guys have a path, but like why would you trade for like guys that have a harder path to relevancy?
yeah, and like I don't know, bro. It's really frustrating for me because there's guys in this class that have a path to relevance, in my opinion, like Damon Claiborne, like Katron Allen, maybe to a lesser degree Nicholas Singleton, but let's just say those first two names. But both those guys went outside the top 150 picks, man. It's like, you know, um, there's like a give and a take there where like the guys that I want to like because of situation didn't get the draft capital, and the guys like Mike Washington who were higher prospects, or even like Jonah Coleman, they're stuck behind a guy or two where it's like I can't expect much year one from them. So really got boned.
And people will ignore the context of okay, Tootin was a fourth round pick in 2025's running back class.
Yeah.
I mean that's completely different talents of draft class. Now Jeremiah Love, I think is arguably the RB1 over Genti in a class. I think if you had either one as RB1, I wouldn't argue with you
Right. Right.
personally. I think they're both awesome. But I mean, like going
Oh
fourth
my.
round in last year's class is way different than this year.
Yeah, bro. Like I mean, the RB probably 7 or 8 was about as good of a prospect as Price this year. Like
Yeah.
it's an absolute chasm. So
Tootin would have been a second round pick in my opinion this year.
yeah, I mean,
IRL.
like if you put the Tootin profile up next to Jadarian Price, you can kind of
It's
squint
better.
and say that
It's
Tootin's better. I
better.
mean, yeah, and like
Yeah.
yeah, and like once again, like it's hard because like I could really get into the weeds about how unique a profile Price is, but like at the end of the day, a whole lot of holes in that profile. Whereas like Tootin, he checks the boxes. He's heavy enough. He can do the um, 3 down skill set, short distance, goal line, hopefully catch passes. I mean, he kind of has the whole 9 yards. So yeah, very 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 high in him going into next year for sure.
Yeah. Trying to think. Other players. Other players. You know, another interesting thing, and the same thing I was mentioning about the buy low Tootin and see if you could get Tootin for 3 seconds, which is just ridiculous if you're an owner.
Yeah,
I saw another thing where it was like Henry or 2 seconds, and I'm like, okay, well, let's think about who would be owning Derrick Henry. It would be a contending team. I mean,
yeah,
that's who would be owning Derrick Henry, and it's like, I'm sorry, I get it if you don't want to send a first for Derrick Henry, but the owner isn't accepting 2 seconds in this class. Are you
yeah,
shitting me? Like, dude, what? Like, some people just have these crazy thoughts in their head that make absolutely no sense. And and sometimes, sometimes a player isn't worth X pick. Sometimes they're too low to be worth this and too high to be worth that.
yeah. And yeah, like it doesn't need to be all cut and dry. Like it can be a 1.5 first he's worth it, 2.5 seconds he's worth. Like, but yeah, I mean, when it comes down to like Derrick Henry, like we just need to understand who's gonna be having these veterans. So like when you put a Reddit post out there with like no context, like a lot of the time it's gonna make no sense because like why is this guy the Devonte Adams owner or the Derrick Henry owner or the CMC owner, why are they taking on picks if they're trying to win this year? Head scratcher.
It just baffles me. And some guys like Derrick Henry, he's 33.
Yeah.
Uh, Nobody's going to trade you a first, unfortunately, if you're looking to get out from under him. Some guys, once it's this stage, it's like Mike Evans. You just have to ride them out because you're never going to get what they're actually worth to you.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, many such cases now with these guys getting up there. I mean, like Evans is a great child. I almost said him when you mentioned a Henry and I mentioned Adams because like I mean at a certain point like you just need to take these guys into the sunset because like you're not gonna get your value worth.
Yeah, that's a general thing. I think like if 2027's class was this year, I think you could sell Henry more easily because you could get maybe one of these round two backs that maybe didn't get quite the best spot but got the capital, something like that. If you were looking
Yeah,
to move off of him, kind of a thing. But this year, it is,
it's grim.
it's just, it's just not happening. Uh, Unfortunately,
Yep.
uh, Denzel Boston, another player we kind of haven't talked about too much. We talked about KC, obviously. We
Yeah.
both like KC Concepcion. He's good. With Boston, man, I just think he kind of resembles Cortland Sutton to me. Um, it's just, do you like Cortland Sutton? And at least in my opinion, that's who he is in a wide receiver two role behind KC, but really is arguably the third target behind Fannin two.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
That's why I think he's kind of the last guy at the very end of the tier of guys I could actually say I would be excited about owning at least even long term.
Yeah, bro. And it's funny, like I could have like I guess like negotiated harder during our Jeremiah Love trade and given you the 12th pick instead of the 11th pick because it's looking
I
like
wouldn't have given a crap.
yeah,
I think it
yeah.
would have been.
But hey, here's what it
I
comes
just
down
needed
to
them.
is you're probably gonna be looking at the last two guys in that tier, Cooper and Boston, but you're gonna get your choice of them. So um Cooper it is.
Yeah, that'll be. I mean, ultimately, if those are the two players, I will be going with Omar Cooper. That's just. I mean, I don't have to lie to you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you and then sell my pick and then
Right.
yeah, if you
Right.
catch my drift there, but
I wonder how you would
yeah,
yeah, I mean, that just seems very unethical to me, but you know.
I wish he was watching right now.
I'll probably send a clip to Akash or something, but yeah, man. Hey,
That's funny.
I mean, I'm trying to think of like any other rookie takes. Like, I have some notes out here. Do you have any take on Adam Randall? I mean, this is super random, but
Let me see. Where did he go? I think I
I think he
have
went to
him.
Baltimore and like maybe like pick like 150, 156.
So looking at our backfield, let me make sure. I know we lost Keaton Mitchell. I think
Justice Hill.
we still have Justice. I'm pretty
Oh,
confident.
that's my guy. Oklahoma State legend right there.
Really good receiver.
Yeah.
Running back, but a good receiving running back.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, there is a path to relevancy. Obviously, with Henry being so old, he takes care of himself. He doesn't generally miss time, but at some point, the wheels have to fall off.
Yeah.
Um, I wasn't the biggest fan personally. Um, like he's huge, so I get the idea of if you use Derrick Henry and he's big, Adam Randall, he's big and he's a good athlete to be fair for his size too. I didn't
Yeah.
think the tape was that great, but I think if you're getting this guy for free, probably you could probably get the in this draft. You might even get him in like the fourth round.
Yeah.
There's definitely worse bets as far as like a potential path to relevancy.
Yeah. Adam Randall. I mean, I have two, I guess, like different like anecdotes here, but Adam Randall was a guy where the tape was never great there. I mean, the tape is not great at all. Um, but he's a guy that you just look at a quick glance and you're like, okay, former receiver, played running back, versatile, big. Okay, like I can get down with that, you know. Um, but the tape is very lackluster. But here's the more cool anecdote. I guess the Ravens owner is, I mean, like I don't know if you saw this, but the Ravens owner is good friends with Dabo Swinney, the Clemson coach, and they had a conversation and Dabo was like hyping up Adam Randall's character and was saying, "Hey, this kid does whatever we need. You know, running back, receiver. He transitioned, blah blah blah." And so the Ravens owner got a hard on, and for the first time in 25 years, he made the draft pick himself. And like he called Adam Randall and was like, "Adam Randall, I don't do this ever, but that was when he told you or like told me that like you're a beast and we want you here." And he's like, "How do you feel taking handoffs from Lamar Jackson?" He's like, "Fuck yeah, motherfucker." So I'm hoping that maybe that like narrative maybe gets him you know maybe some playing time. But yeah, I mean, kind of cool story there nonetheless for a guy that is not great, but you know, intriguing at least being a former receiver.
Yeah, I mean, Wild West out there, get your guy. And if you're looking for one of these running backs, I do I like that. I like that you brought him up because I don't think even among the guys that nobody's really talking about, he's probably not even discussed enough.
No, for real.
And it really like a lot of these guys that they got good enough spots that with one injury, if they're good, they should have a shot to get a lot of volume.
For sure. 100%, man. Yeah, I mean, Adam Randall, I pretty clear path to touches post Henry, but we've kind of been trying to make the post Henry bet for a while. So it's like, you know, that's a hard bet to make. And also, it's just possible that like Adam Randall just isn't that good at running back. I mean, the tape wasn't that good in the first place, and he's more of a projection play, in my opinion. So it is what it
I would
is.
agree. Running back is all about volume. Draft capital matters as far as long term security, but as far as short term, immediate production, all you need if you don't get a starting spot with the draft capital or a contract is the opportunity. So that will ultimately tell us whether he's good. Is if there's an injury to Henry, does he play?
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Hey, I see about one more name here that I want to bring up, but I probably gotta get out of here pretty soon. But is there like a name or two else that you wanna like shout out here?
So I'm going to talk about somebody that I was potentially wrong about.
Okay. Okay.
So I think a lot of people are too scared of for whatever reason they care about what people think about them. I
Come
could
on.
not care less. So somebody that I was really high on and I thought was going to get much better draft capital, and I just liked what I saw that didn't is Chris Brazzell.
Ooh.
Um, so I personally am an upside shot guy. That's why I like Tyson over Tate. That's why I liked Neighbors over Marvin Harrison.
Yep.
I like the upside because if you really smash the upside, then you can get somebody that can infinitely rise in value as opposed to yeah that guy's solid.
Right.
And with Brazel, he ended up being a little bit less than 6'5". He was 6'4". He was, I believe, 198 pounds, so a little bit lanky, about 6 pounds lighter than BTJ, but still ran a 4.37. More importantly, I think I saw that speed on the field. Now,
Yeah.
he didn't get behind the defense as much, but that's because they were playing way off coverage because they knew that he could burn past them. But those highs in that 170-yard, three touchdown game against Georgia,
Oh boy.
that I was so excited. He at the beginning of my pre-draft process was my after I got through enough receivers, he was like my wide receiver four, I want to
Wow.
say, or
Yeah.
five. Five. It was five after I got through uh five after I got through Omar Cooper. Cooper ended up being
Yep.
my four.
I remember you
But
saying that.
yeah, so I like the upside. Now with the problem is the landing spot. Now I think he plays right away in three wide receiver sets. I think he plays vertical Z. I think McMillan plays X, and he could play X too. But I think Coker plays slot. The problem is you have Bryce Young. This guy threw for 200 yards in a game, four total times, including one at 202 yards.
Oh my God.
That's just brutal. Like I think just Bryce Young. It goes back to the why in the hell do teams select a 5'10" quarterback in the top of the first round? Your upside and floor are permanently limited by virtue of your quarterback being 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
Kyler, Bryce, how many times do you guys have to fail with these picks over and over again while CJ Stroud at least looks better than Bryce Young?
Mm-hmm.
Um, with Kyler Murray, I don't remember who else was in that class, but like I just it's I just hate that for Chris Brazzle, and he fell a little bit in the class. He fell into like my fifth round, my fifth tier um, receivers. I have him like right around Skylar Bell, Caleb Douglas.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty fair. And it's kind of a bummer. Like, you know, Bryce Young plus having McMillan there. And I'm a pretty big cokehead. Like, I think Brasso can
Yep.
pass him, but like he's no scrub, obviously. But
No, he's good.
yeah, man, it's kind of a tough scene. Someone that I guess the fortunes have been a little more fortunate. That's not a phrase, but yeah, Brendan Thompson going to the Chargers. So Mike McDaniel was all excited about Brandon Thompson. Brandon Thompson, like there was these videos about like I need Brandon Thompson. Like what do I gotta do? He screams, totally screams Mike McDaniel, and this is like a two for one because I think there's a outside chance that Keaton Mitchell has a pretty sizable role this year, next to a Marion Hampton. I mean, we're looking at a Mike McDaniel need for
Hmm?
speed type of offense here. Brendan Thompson, fastest player in the class. I believe you're in a 4.28 or something. 1,000 yards,
Four two
Mississippi
six.
State
Yeah.
record. Yeah, I mean, kid can fly. He's really slight. So I mean, maybe he has a Tutu Atwell career, which would be But yeah, there's some upside. I mean, they were comparing him to like Deshaun Jackson and Tyreek Hill. That's just blasphemous. That's just blasphemous. What are we doing? But I'll take that because it signals confidence at the very least, even if it's totally irrational confidence. But Brandon Thompson, I said I wanted him to go top 100. I think he went like 102. So that's tough. But
He went 105. Yep.
okay, yeah. So hey, close enough there. I would obviously love to have him gone, first or second round, but it's all right capital to a really good team. Granted, there's a lot of weapons there between Ladd, Aronde Gadsden, Quentin Johnston, Trey Harris, etc. Um, but he brings a different element. I mean, he's a total speed demon, and I think he's more. I mean, I've been saying this. I think he's more than a speed demon because I mean, look at 1,000 yards in the SEC. Nothing to scoff at there. So we'll see.
Yeah, I just say the only thing with him that I worry about is the outlier size in terms of weight.
Yeah,
We've seen it with Worthy, we've seen it with Tank Dell, and Tank Dell. I think if he, bless him, man, he's so talented. It sucks that he
yeah,
got hurt, but yeah, I think he's going to be. Now, I could be wrong about this. My personal opinion of him is I think he's going to be a sacrificial deep threat.
yeah.
But that doesn't mean that he can't but Justin Herbert has the arm to make a sacrificial deep threat a best ball kind of a guy at the very
Right.
least.
Yeah, and like I mean, like at the end of the day, he probably has a Tutu Atwell career where he's never really fantasy relevant. But like when you're getting to the 3-4 turn of these fantasy drafts, like I think
Take
there's
your
a
guy.
worse bet to make than someone that Mike McDaniel loves and was like handpicked. and had 1,000 yards in the SEC. Granted, yeah, being 165, 170 or whatever he is, never gonna be you know great comps there from a size speed or like size wise there, but speed production. I mean, there's a little bit there that I can kind of like get behind, especially with the Chargers there and McDaniel. So
For sure, for sure. Yeah, that's pretty comprehensive. We got through a lot of these rookies, man.
yeah, I mean, there's always going to be more names. But like, I mean, like we can hop on in like a day or two. I mean, we can talk about Justin Jolie. We can talk about Max Clare, Tanner Koziel going to the Jaguars. That kind of sucks for my Brenton Strange stocks.
That pissed
Strange
me
stocks.
off. I screamed when I heard his, like, I literally got excited. And then I was like, yeah. And then I looked and I was like, no.
Yeah, bro. Tough. It's tough, man.
God damn it, Jaguars.
Yeah, I did like
Oh,
them taking Nate Borkercher because I thought that was going to free up some snaps for Strange to catch passes, but then he gets backdoored with the 6'7" pass catching demon Tanner Cozy. I'm like, no.
you know what it means?
What?
This this means here's what good coaches do. Well, the best coaches like Ben Johnson and Sean McVay lead the trends changes in the NFL by
Yeah.
heavy tight end personnel. Good head coaches make the adjustment once they see it, like Liam Cohen. And what do? They get blocking tight ends, they get another receiving tight end so that they can run more tight end heavy personnel. Bad coaches stay in what used to work and don't adapt.
Yep.
Now, this means that Brian Thomas is going to rise in value because he is the guy who is not going to be taken off the field in these 13 personnel tight end sets that they're going to run. But this is another big reason why I like Tootin and why I like Rodriguez. I'm a Tootin guy, but I like them both. And to pretend as though the Jags offense, as good as it looked this past season, can't have two running backs that are fantasy relevant.
Come
They
on.
might not be elite RB1s. That's not what I'm
Yeah.
saying, but I think you're going to see a lot of heavy personnel, and I think Brian Thomas is the guy that eats. And I think somebody that I really like that's going to suffer is going to be Parker Washington because I don't think he's
Ooh.
going to see the field as much in terms of total snap percentage.
Yeah. I mean, man, a lot to break down there, but I can get down with your multiple fantasy relevant RB take there because I mean there's a world where Chris Rodriguez 8 or 10 carries and maybe some goal line carries. I mean that's like flexible there in a good offense. I mean, and that's mentioning no receiving work. So there's a very real world where Tootin eats Rodriguez is good enough, and I mean Strange, Cozio, dogs. Parker Washington, BTJ, please, please, please. I mean, Jacoby
He's
Myers
going to
too,
be good
man.
again.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty scary offense there. Lots of mouths to feed, but I mean, I love Colm, and I love what he's done there. And yeah, I'm not the highest on Trevor Lawrence, but there's so much going on where like
Tisk tisk
there's
tisk
so
tisk.
much going on where I think he'll probably be pretty successful. So
Yeah, I see it though. I was a Trevor defender for a long time, man.
me too, me
Uh,
too.
people want to act like Joe Burrow is one of the few people that was so good that at quarterback specifically that it's really tough to overcome brutal coaching.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, and like doing the Joe Burrow example, I was so high on Trevor Lawrence because I thought he was the next thing, the next big thing at
He
Clemson. I
might be
mean,
now.
yeah,
He
yeah, man,
finally
and
doesn't
like
have a bottom three coach.
no, for sure, and I just love seeing like back in the day, like he had the rocket arm at Clemson, but he used his legs a lot too. I mean, in the national championship game, going down for
He had
six to
like
7 yard
eight
scrambles,
touchdowns.
you know.
I'm gonna look real quick to verify this. I believe he now people will say he had an outlier season for touchdowns on the ground, which is technically true even for him. But people want to pretend like this man. So he had 9 rushing touchdowns. I think
Oh
that's
my gosh.
probably not happening again. But he's had two as a rookie, five, four, and three, but it was in 10 games. This guy generally has like 4 to 5 touchdowns if you look at his 17 game pace on the ground. So him getting potentially another 6 or 7 isn't that like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, and you're talking 334 rushing yards, 291, 339, 359. Like that is a really good rushing floor for somebody that's not like a dual threat.
No, for sure, yeah. I mean, and with all the pass catching support around him, he doesn't need the gaudy rushing numbers, but he clearly has the athleticism to do that, where he could break through the glass ceiling there and be a top five quarterback. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I guess we'll see, bro. But I do gotta get out of here. But
same.
I would love to do this, bro, and like maybe like this weekend. And I'm glad that it worked because like last time was just kind of weird. I mean, like I don't know what happened there, but I mean, always a pleasure, bro. And I would love to do this, like pretty regularly because I mean, like I have a good time with it. So
Sounds good, man. I'll talk to you. Best of luck to you, and have fun with your malicious compliance and
hey,
professional
man,
dynasty.
that's gonna be a all season thing there. So I mean, you'll be getting updates, man, for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna be sitting there and antagonizing it.
Hey,
The
man.
troll that I
But
am, my guy.
no, for sure, for sure. But hey, man, have a good night. And hey, this draft, it's about to start rocking here soon. So I'll talk to you soon, bro.
Absolutely, man. I'll talk to you.
All
Bye.
right, man. See ya.